I never thought a single week could turn my life upside down in ways I could never have imagined. My daughter, Ayesha, was preparing for the happiest day of her life, her wedding to Samir, the young man she had been dating for years. As a father, I had envisioned the ceremony filled with laughter, tears of joy, and a sense of pride in seeing my little girl step into a new chapter. But 5 days before the wedding, the world I had known shattered completely. It started with a phone call from my wife, Samina. The tone of her voice immediately set off alarms. It was hushed, tense, and almost reluctant, like she was weighing every word before speaking. "There's something I need to tell you," she said. I braced myself, expecting perhaps a minor confession or a request for help. I'm pregnant," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "But it's not what you think." My mind froze. I asked her to clarify, hoping I had misheard, that my brain was distorting reality. Her next words made me feel like I had been plunged into an icy void. "It's Samir's," she admitted. "Your daughter's fiancé. And it happened last month." The word struck me like a physical blow. The air seemed to leave my lungs, my heart thundered in my chest, and the world tilted around me. My wife with our daughter's fiancé. 5 days before their wedding. The betrayal was staggering, incomprehensible, and grotesque in its timing and audacity. I demanded silence for a moment, trying to comprehend the layers of deceit. Every emotion collided in my mind: anger, disbelief, disgust, and a sense of profound betrayal. How could she do this? How could Samir, who we had trusted implicitly, commit such a transgression against our family? And my daughter, how could she marry a man whose betrayal was hiding just beneath the surface? Samina's voice broke through my thoughts again, pleading, apologetic, and yet defiant in its own way. "I never meant for it to happen. It just did. I didn't know how to tell you. I wanted to tell you before, but I couldn't. I couldn't listen. The betrayal was too immense. I felt my vision blur with rage and sorrow. My family, my daughter's happiness, and the trust we had all placed in each other had been trampled in one reckless act. The next step required careful thought. Acting impulsively could ruin lives further, but doing nothing was impossible. I decided to confront Samir first. I needed to hear his perspective, if only to understand the scale of the betrayal and to decide on the necessary consequences. I called him over under the pretense of discussing last-minute wedding details. When he arrived, I saw the guilt written across his face, but it was mingled with arrogance, a confidence that somehow he could justify the unjustifiable. I confronted him directly, laying out Samina's confession. The color drained from his face, his words faltered, and I could see the enormity of what he had done finally register. "How could you do this?" I demanded, my voice shaking with rage and disbelief. "To your fiancé, to our family, to everyone who trusted you." He stammered, offered weak excuses about lust, temptation, and mistakes. But excuses could not mitigate betrayal, timing, or the profound disrespect of boundaries. The fact that it happened so close to the wedding made it almost theatrical in its cruelty. A betrayal of monumental proportions. Next came the hardest part, telling Ayesha. I struggled with how to approach it. She had been ecstatic, counting down the days, imagining a perfect future with Samir. Exposing the truth would shatter her world, yet keeping it hidden felt morally impossible. I chose honesty, though I knew it would devastate her. "Ayesha," I said, gently but firmly, "there's something you need to know before your wedding. It's about Samir and your mother." Her face, full of excitement moments before, froze in shock. I watched as confusion, disbelief, and horror played across her expression. I explained the situation calmly, without embellishment, letting the truth speak for itself. She could not process it at first, struggling to reconcile the man she loved with the betrayal he had committed. The aftermath was chaos. Plans were immediately halted, guests called, and the wedding canceled. Samina begged for forgiveness, while Samir attempted to justify his actions. But the damage was irreparable. Trust, once broken at this scale, could not be mended by apologies or promises. The betrayal had struck at the core of our family, leaving emotional wreckage in its wake. I remember sitting alone that night, trying to process the enormity of what had happened. Samina's actions were unconscionable, a violation of both marital and parental trust. Samir had betrayed not only his fiancée, but also the entire family. The timing 5 days before the wedding was a cruel stroke that amplified the emotional devastation. Anger burned in me, but I also felt a deep sense of responsibility. I had to protect Ayesha, guide her through the emotional turmoil, and ensure she felt supported and loved despite the betrayal. I had to confront Samina and Samir with measured consequences, legal, familial, and social, so that accountability was clear. The days that followed were difficult. Emotions ran high, and every interaction was tense and raw. But the clarity of truth became our guide. We dismantled the wedding plans, ensured Samina and Samir faced the repercussions of their actions, and created space for healing, reflection, and rebuilding trust, though not in the relationship that had been destroyed, but in the family bonds that remained intact. The betrayal left scars, but it also brought profound lessons. Trust is sacred, and when it is violated by those closest to you, the consequences ripple outward, touching every relationship, every plan, every expectation. Timing amplifies betrayal, and the closer it occurs to moments of anticipated joy, the deeper the impact. In the end, the incident forced each of us to confront uncomfortable truths about character, loyalty, and the fragility of trust. Samina's actions could not be excused, and Samir's betrayal was unforgivable. But the experience also highlighted resilience, the ability to confront betrayal, enforce boundaries, and protect loved ones, even when the foundation of trust has been shattered. Ayesha, devastated as she was, gradually found strength in support and truth. She realized that betrayal is not her fault, and that the character of others does not define her worth or happiness. The canceled wedding, though painful, became a moment of reckoning, reflection, and growth for all of us. Ultimately, the week that should have been filled with celebration became a crucible of betrayal, exposing the fragility of trust and the audacity of deceit. Samina's choices, Samir's actions, and the timing of the revelation left a mark that could never be erased, but they also reinforced the importance of accountability, honesty, and protecting those who matter most. 5 days before a wedding, a life changed forever, not with joy, but with betrayal. And in facing it, we discovered the resilience to survive, rebuild, and reclaim the integrity that had been shattered.